Yo, Shortbox Nation, hello again. Welcome back, and thanks for pressing play today. If you're brand new, welcome to the show. My name is Botter, and this is the Shortbox Podcast, the comic book talk show that brings you the best conversations about your favorite comics with the people that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making them, or in today's case, selling them, championing them, getting new readers on board. I mean, this man has done it all. Ladies and gents, Shortbox Nation, I'm recording this episode live from Gotham City Limit Comic Shop, a.k.a. the best place in all of Florida, this side of the Mississippi for sure. It's my local comic shop, and I'm sitting here with the man himself, Mr. Ben Kingsbury. What up, Ben? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, Botter? It's
How you
great
doing,
to
buddy?
see you, my friend. Oh, yeah, sorry, made you drop your phone. Yeah,
it's
we
all
got to
good.
do a proper handshake for sure. We got to take it to the limit today. Yeah, this is awesome. We only get to do this. We were talking about hopefully we do more next year.
Yeah, next year I think we got to ramp it up. But we have done 2 recordings every year for the past 2-3 years. We'll do one in the middle for Free Comic Book Day, and then our end of year episode. So that's why we're here today.
This
we're here
year
to talk
went by quick, huh?
Ain't that the truth? I was listening to our 2024 end of year episode, and deja vu. It's like almost the same setup. Granted, I got a couple new toys that people can't see.
I put my nice shirt on.
I do. I see.
Right?
I was like, wow.
Yeah. Jonathan's
this is...
got me on the Roosevelts. And this one's Ben Grimm. I'll do anything with Ben.
Whoa.
So it's the thing.
Ben.
Yeah,
I didn't even connect
even notice that it was yes.
I don't know why, but at first I was like, why do I get TMNT vibes from this?
Yeah. Well, it kind of
Like a
has
shell.
that little shell.
Yeah.
But no,
No,
it's
but
the
Ben.
thing.
Ben.
Awesome. Yes.
We've also got, just in case if anyone doubted how amazing this shop is, we are flanked in the background, decorated with plenty of your awards this year.
Because you go and vote, and we don't just win those things. That's not how it works. They don't just give them to us. Literally, people go online and vote for it.
All right,
So
well,
thank you.
Let me see what we got. We got the Business Hall of Fame, 3 consecutive years, comic book store, Best of Jax, and then you got a Best of Florida award.
Yeah, those started, and that's our 3rd year in a row of that as well. But we are going on our 8th year. So why it's not 8 years in a row is my fault. I'll be better, I promise, in the future. No, it's awesome. It's the best thing ever. But I didn't do it to win any awards. We have a comic shop to have a cool place in Jacksonville. Jacksonville is awesome. I love the city. I think it's growing, and so it's nice to have a place, especially during the holidays, where a bunch of people come in town that don't live here and come check it out. Because I know I go and visit, and I know you visit other shops. So all this stuff is just awesome, and it just makes for a cool experience, and we get to keep bringing it back to the people and keep growing. So,
Ben, I've got to ask, since we're on the topic of Jax, comic shops, awards. We are recording on Victory Monday. Jag just won. The Jacksonville Jaguars just won their 12th win of the season.
Yeah.
And I'm curious. You're a huge Jags fan. I think you're also a season ticket holder.
Yeah.
We always talk about the games. I know that I noticed personally, this could be all anecdotally, but I noticed that when the Jags are doing good, there's a certain energy in the city.
Yeah.
People are a little nicer. People are willing to talk more, especially if it's about the Jags. Everyone's got something to say. Even like non-football fans kind of
It's very
chime in.
unifying.
Yes.
And people enjoy being proud of the place they live.
We like being winners.
And one of the big things that we have in Jacksonville is the NFL team. In fact, they almost have those hotels built downtown, and then they've got the Hard Rock coming. And then I anticipate they did something to the landing there. I haven't been to it yet when they cut the ribbons over there and got that whole new security and an outdoor area. But it'd be great if they had like seafood restaurants.
Yeah.
Like, why do I got to go to Ponte Vedra to get seafood? I should be able to go like to a little place right over the river and go down there and shop some. And then it's exciting. Everybody talks about the Jags. I did my Whatnot show like an hour after the Jaguar game.
Oh, I know you're hype. I can only imagine how hype you are.
And then as soon as I got on, everybody's like, go Jags. So that's fun.
Hell yeah.
And I'll tell you right now, it doesn't really matter what any of the talking heads say, whether it's positive or negative about the Jaguars. They're live to make the Super Bowl. They can play with everybody in AFC. So, if they turn the ball over and kind of bumble it around like they did against the Colts, then we might have a hard time in the playoffs. But if we get like the team that is playing great, then we could beat anybody. And Trevor Lawrence looks like a young John Elway. It's kind of fun to watch him run around there, dude. I love it.
Ben,
So
you might.
good.
I want to say you might be, in my personal personal experience, the only comic shop owner that is this passionate about football and the home team. Do you notice that energy? That same energy we were talking about like the enthusiasm, that excitement, that hype. Do you notice that in the shop?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I notice it about comics. Like, we get that excited about things coming out. And so that's why when we talk of like best of, it's the stuff that people are excited about. And then personally, like what I'm like, can't wait. I'm like, oh, that's great. And then it also, it reminds you of what it's like to be maybe like a Jets fan. Like when you talk about the Amazing Spider-Man comic, because I'm like, I'm not even that excited. New ASM's out. We're almost at 1,000. And you know what I mean? It's been 4 days. I haven't even read the new issue. And you're like, man, that's crazy, because if it's any of my favorite comics that we're about to talk about, I read it as soon as I get it, usually a week ahead of time or 2 weeks ahead of time. So, yeah, but it's the same kind of energy. It's the same kind of fun, kind of like unity. And especially today, where the media does a good job of like a kind of separating people occasionally. Now, like sports and other things that unify Jacksonville, Duval, make it, I expect the game against the Titans this weekend to be bonkers, like a playoff game,
For sure.
So whenever you hear people talk smack about Jacksonville, like, oh, they're not afraid to go to Jacksonville, I just remember the last playoff game we had here, and that was
legendary.
Insane, man.
I was there that
yeah,
day.
it was so much fun, and it was so loud, and I don't think anybody wants to come and play us in Jacksonville.
Damn right, Ben. Talk that shit. All right, but you know what? You mentioned why we're here today, and that's to talk about the comic books from this year. I want to hear about, what you've noticed trend-wise, industry-wise, working the shop. Like you said, you're going on your 8th year of owning the shop. And all that, but you're a very entertaining and insightful person to talk about at the end of the year.
Pressure's on. Let's do it.
My first question, and I ended up even reaching out to some of the members of the Short Box Patronis, all right, cool. the Short Box patrons. So I've got questions from them as well. But the first question I want to ask you is, like I mentioned, we've been doing this series of episodes for the past, 3 going on 4 years. Last year, when we talked about the best comics of 2024, you ranked 2024. In terms of holistically, and as an A+ for comics. That's in terms of variety, sales, creative team, just a broad overview. You said it was an A+ year for comic books. I'm curious, right off the top, how does 2025 fare in comparison?
I know. It's tough because you give it A+, then you're like, oh, well, you got to have it. But
only way to go is
mean, if you actually look at numbers, it's better in a lot of ways. We'll get into it, but it's the year of the blind bag. So comics have started to go down the path of like card collecting, essentially, where you can get those rare ones. So that makes it a lot of fun. But some companies have done a great job at it. Some companies have just jumped on, and it hasn't been as value driven. It's also been the year of the creator, owned comics. So whether it's Tyler Kirkham doing his final boss, or Tom Hardy having his own comic, or even the continuation of like say Berserker with Keanu Reeves, you start to see a lot of like people understanding that a lot of media that we consume actually comes from this world, and a lot of stories, so they can kind of get in at the ground level. I think creators, especially people, they see Rob Liefeld and some other people who have been able to make a career out of the characters they create, and they want to try something themselves, aka David Finch drawing the entire Skinbreaker series that Robert Kirkman's doing. And that's in the hopes that I assume that over his long haul career, now he can get paid residuals off of that, something like Walking Dead people do, etc.
You mentioned the blind bags, and that was something not related, but last year you did mention how there might have been a certain fatigue when it came to variants.
Yeah.
Last
year, that is, if there was going to be one negative to people in general, it's tough when it's a regular issue and there's 6 different covers, because you want to collect them. Yeah. And then, the comic event of like 3 decades in the making, DC and Marvel actually teaming up together this year is an amazing thing. So again, so huge. But then there were 20-something covers, and and how do you want to collect collect them all. You want to get them, but then it makes it hard. So the variants themselves, yes, but when it is a blind bag and there's an actual hunt for a chase, you don't mind because it's just like the same thing, like buying Pokemon cards, I assume, and getting a lot of the same one.
Who would you say has done the best blind bag of the year?
The first one that did it, Invincible Battle Beast. They were the best.
That was awesome.
You know, and a lot of times in life, the first one who does it is always the best, and then you get replicants and they do well, but that was by far the best. Best price, $3.99, unbelievable. And then just the best. They had future issues, cool chases, and Invincible was so hot.
Which I'm right there, which I think Battle Beast did have the best blind bag. I think them being kind of first as well, establishes...
Allowed him to do it, but they did it right.
But I think what really set it off for me was, it's like, wait, I can get issue 2? Why? For some reason, it was such a foreign concept, right? But it's like, that's kind of cool.
No, it really was hidden. You could get the old one with Spider-Man on it. Yeah. Invincible was popular, so all the comics were selling for a lot. So just in general, it is popular. They did the best. They were the best blind bags. They were the best price point, and they got the biggest amount of age range. You got a lot of teenagers buying them and involved. I had a lot of like 19-year-old kids buying 5, looking at them outside, coming back in, people trying to figure out which ones are the foils by weighing them, like not actually weighing them, but just feeling them. So it was awesome. And Invincible has done that. Invincible, like the Absolute Universe and a couple others that we'll talk about, have brought a young readership into the game that has been the first time in my 8 years where there's really a noticeable young crowd who comes and gets comics again.
Very interesting, because I feel like that's always a talking point when people talk about the state of the industry and its longevity, is that it seems to be only catered to a certain demographic, an older demographic, your 30s and 40s, and we're leaving behind the preteens, the young adults, the college students. They're not having they're not coming into comic shops. But you're saying that due to the blind bags, the success of Invincible and Absolute, you're seeing a lot more younger people coming.
Yeah, and you're seeing people willing to start in spots. And then the comic companies that have brought the best stories are profiting from it. It's not just the characters, but it is. So the Absolute Universe has brought so many young people in and just crushes, and it's so good, and we can get in a little bit more of that in a second. But then it's the DC has done a great job of telling great, amazing stories that are all unified and easy to pick up. And Batman started over, so as soon as people were on Absolute Batman, then you had a lot of people. I mean, for the new Matt Fraction run that they've got going on with Batman. DC's done that. And then you've got all your independent stuff. So if it's a great story, you can sell it to kids. They know what's going on. The Energon universe has a lot of hype. Okay. Yeah, obviously it was before. Last year was one of our big things. It continues to just be very, very successible.
I'm glad you said that, because that was another note I had from our conversation last year, is that you were heaping a lot of praise on like Ghost Machine, the
Geiger's still my favorite.
Red Coats, even the legacy and licensed comics like TMNT, G.I. Joe, Transformers. It seemed to be a huge talking point for us last year. How did those fare this year?
So now we're so deep that we're finally getting all the crossovers. So the next issue of G.I. Joe has the Transformers in it for the first time. And then Void Rivals, those characters that are these synthetic beings that we don't really know where their origin all the way, they have now, it's been introduced that they know about Energon, so they're connected to the Transformers. So you're starting to get like these layers that you never had before when it was just kind of excitement for new stuff. So those things are crushing. And then the Ghost Machine universe is amazing, and I couldn't highly recommend another one to go back and just start reading. Geiger's still one of my favorite stories, period. Top 5 comics that I can't wait when it comes out. I read it instantaneously. Redcoat's already been optioned, and the last issue of Geiger, Redcoat just crossed over, so they're starting to kind of bring this huge holistic picture to the whole thing. Jason Fabok and Rook is back, and the artwork is as good as it gets.
Nice.
In Rook. And then there's that whole Hyde Street, the horror side to it. They just finished up a 5-part series called Sisterhood, and if you want a great, amazing story that's horror related and then actually has a good ending, because it's hard to end comics and stories, Sisterhood, Hyde Street stories so good, 5-part series. So those things have only gotten better, more deep, more complex. Like, they're fantastic, and they're only going to grow. I know they said the Energon universe was going to get that animated series just like Invincible style, So, I mean, as soon as that happens, as soon as the normies see that stuff, they're going to be coming for it. It's a great time to buy and kind of collect those comics right now.
All right, Ben, let me take it to another direction. You've hinted at and mentioned it a couple times, and I feel like a lot of people are probably curious about this question too. But when we recorded last year, the Absolute Universe, I believe, had just started, right? Like, at least the Trinity series had come out: Absolute Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. Going into this year, we saw the release of Absolute Martian Manhunter. Quick tangent, you brought up how the blind bags were bringing, a younger demographic in, younger people, just more people coming in and whatnot. I remember being in this shop when Absolute Martian Manhunter came out, and I was here to pick up issue 1, and I had a similar experience where I was looking around, and it was like, I've never seen that person here or that person here, and they were specifically here to pick up the new Absolute Martian Manhunter. So I was curious. And this is compounding this question, but I was like, I wonder if it's the title or Dennis Camp and what he's doing that brought them in. But I say all that to say that I think earlier this month, there was an article put out about the success of the Absolute Universe and how many millions of copies like that entire series sold, with Absolute Batman kind of leading the charge. Is the hype real? How is that hype translated? How is the hype here?
Well, like
Absolute?
anything else, in comic book collectors, all right, this is a funny analogy, but we're kind of like addicts, right? And so addicts convince themselves that they could stop whenever they want and that they could sell it whenever they want. And so part of the justification in buying, besides just reading, is that it's fun to collect. It might be valuable. So the Absolute Universe is kind of a perfect storm. Not only is it a great place to start buying new comics, so if you're young and you've never been in it, you don't feel like you're missing out on 60 or 70 years of history. But on top of it, people don't sell their comics that much. So to go and try to find the first couple issues of all of these, all of a sudden there was a value to it. Then people start sharing it on social media. It became a perfect storm. And so then, and then the nature of it is that, we ordered 350 total copies of Absolute Batman #1 when it came out. So across the country, its print run wasn't that large, became very popular. Not a lot of people end up selling their comics. And so then when someone does, you see the price, then people talk about it on social media. Oh my God, you see that sold for $100. People come in and they want to look for the next AK golden ticket, essentially. So not on top of just like, hey, that's a new #1, let's pick it up. I know a lot of people are picking up Flash #1 and Martian Manhunter #1 and Green Lantern #1, Absolute, to see if it's also something just to have. I went down to CGC 2 weeks ago, and I think I took 23 Absolute Batman #1s down for people that they had brought in because it's selling so well online. Everybody wants to jump in on it.
I guess how many... Would you say that the Absolute Universe has brought you, has it brought you a lot of new pull customers?
100%. I mean, it's a lot of new people in general. Absolutely. A lot of people who weren't reading comics who now read other stuff that are interested in the universe. They've never done it before. The best thing ever is when someone comes in and says, I've never bought a comic before. But that stuff is definitely bringing young people. And then the realization, I think, of the market that all the stuff in the 70s, 80s was the best, badass, most greatest stuff that's ever been created, and they're bringing it all back, and it's super popular. Just the fact that we sell more Thundercats than I sell a Black Panther Intergalactic or Planet She-Hulk, or like you've got Elvira back, and then you've got all of the Dynamite titles and everything from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. They're bringing it all back. TMNT, Sonic, and He-Man. I mean, it's crazy, and because it's popular and awesome.
Yeah, IDW and Dynamite has a chokehold on nostalgia.
Yeah, they
sure.
do. They're doing it, man.
Nostalgia.
And everybody, and they're making great stuff. So
for sure, that's who. All right, you mentioned Golden Ticket, and I'm going to jump around some of my notes and questions. But I think last month there there was a record-breaking sale for the very first, Superman #1 from 1939. It sold at Heritage Auction, I believe, for like $9 million. I can't remember if that's with the buyer's premium or not. Regardless, it sold for millions of dollars, made a world record. Everyone was talking about it being the most expensive. I think it's the most expensive comic book ever sold.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're not in here selling $1 million, in a single issue.
Yeah.
But just for fun, shits and giggles, because Ben, you have a lot of cool stuff in the shop.
Yeah.
You got CGC graded comics. You got amazing statues. You've got like one of 1,000, variants. What's the most expensive thing you've sold this year?
The most expensive thing I sold was a very early copy of Amazing Spider-Man signed by Stan Lee.
Wow.
Yeah, that, and then the first appearance of Galactus signed by Stan Lee too. I had a couple of CGC graded, really high grade old copies with Stan Lee's signature, and so those are probably the two most expensive things I've ever sold in here. But I will tell you, I'm glad you brought up that Superman comic, because I believe the universe is eventually going to lead me to some attic somewhere. And I am going to find myself in Action Comics or a Superman or a Detective 27. Because I have an Amazing Fantasy 15 for Spider-Man, but it's in a 0.5 condition, like the lowest condition you can have it. It's still just so cool to have.
Does it still have its cover?
What? Yes.
Oh, well,
yes. And so it's awesome. Exactly. It is awesome. And it actually has a whole trade dress on it, so you can see the whole thing. Such good artwork. But yeah, no, I hope the universe, I actually think over the next 20 years, we're going to see more of these high-end comics coming out, because you're going to have generations of people who, unfortunately, just nature-wise, are going to pass away.
Sure.
And you're going to they found that literally in an attic.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I think, didn't Mile High Comics kind of get their start by finding a giant collection? I'm pretty sure, and they found some really old stuff. Kind of that's how they got going. So fingers crossed. If you have a collection to sell,
hit up Ben at 904.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
exactly.
Cool.
I'll do it. Let's do it.
I'm gonna take a little. We're gonna go off the beaten path here. Because, like I said, I reached out to the Short Box Patronis. I said, hey, I'm interviewing Ben. Send in questions. There's a little contest involved with it. I'm actually going to give away one of the signed Aaron Bartling Last Boss covers to one of these lucky people. So I want to ask this first question from a Short Box Patroni. It goes by Henry Hernandez. Big shout outs to Henry. He sent in a question. And he wants to know, he said, yo, Merry Christmas to all the Shortbox Nation. My question would be a two-parter. How did Ben get into comics, and what was his first bought issue? I think it's a good question for this topic.
That is a great question. So, how I got into the comics is kind of a double-layer question. I got into comics when I was young because they were introduced to me at about 6 years old, and then Calvin and Hobbes and a bunch of other things, and then it naturally led me into comics, and I've always loved artwork, so I naturally got into that. What led me into starting a comic book shop was that I was collecting comics as just a young adult, and the shop that I went to was retiring and shutting down, and I was kind of looking for something new to do. And I think God told me this is my new path to start something fun and awesome and exciting, and so that's how I got into actually owning a comic shop. What was the second half of the question?
What was the first comic that you ever bought?
The first comic I ever got, my parents gave me with G.I. Joe and Transformers, which coincidentally are two of my favorite things now at 46 years old. The first comic I remember ever buying myself, though, however, was Silver Surfer 50, Volume 2. It was a little die cut. It was Thanos in the background and Silver Surfer coming out the front on the cover.
Yeah, that's a great cover.
Yeah, and I bought it off a newsstand with my own money from babysitting, so I still remember that. I actually have it. It's so beat up. It looks like I bent it in half and stuck it in a book bag at some point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of even cooler about it that I actually have it. But yeah, that's the first one I remember ever personally buying myself.
That was legit. Henry, good question, Henry.
That was good because he didn't even tell me earlier, so I'm glad I had that on the spot.
Ben knows a couple questions I'm going to ask, but I've got some surprises.
Okay,
let me get back to. I don't think I ever got to hear your grade for this year. Like I said, you gave it.
So I'm gonna say it's an A-.
Okay.
And the reason I'm gonna say that is it's great and awesome and record breaking sales. But the industry's gotten like a little tiny bit expensive. You know, they've gotten a little greedy with some of the variants. You know, and some of the comic book companies have reminded the everyday folk that they don't really, some of them are amazing and reach out and really want to help us help them, essentially.
Sure.
And then sometimes you're reminded by some of the companies that they're going to make the decisions and you're going to have to try to deal with it, essentially. So, but for the most part, amazing, great. Probably a little twinge off of last year. It's just, man, $5.99 is a pretty standard price for a comic, and I love it, and I love the American dream, or in the American kind of hobby that is American comics.
Sure.
You know, we do exclusives, and I really try to keep them like, man, $7.99, $8.99, $9.99. Like, that's, to me, value is the key in the comic world now. And so that's where we try to provide it.
Sure.
And at least the stuff that's awesome and great stories, you're good. Sometimes some of the other stuff, like we talked about earlier, Marvel, a little bit, you're like, man, is it worth my money to even buy this new Marvel story? You know, even try it out. So...
now I'm trying to figure out, do I want to go down this Marvel path or ask this question pertaining to, you mentioned like the industry and how expensive it has gotten. And it got me thinking that earlier this year, I think everyone was kind of wondering, like, you know, if the news of tariffs and, you know, potential price increases, like where we get our paper for comics, all this stuff. I think that was top of mind earlier this year. I think a lot of us have kind of forgot about some of that, even though we are seeing prices increase on things like comics. But I wanted to also know, last year, we also, I believe we're talking about, you know, Diamond had just filed for bankruptcy. Yep. We were trying to figure out, like, well, how does that impact you, you know, getting the books this year. And I mean, we both knew that it was going to be a very slow, you know, a bunch of legal process involved. I think they've still working on it. I think they're I think that has moved towards like liquidation. I think Diamond is actually now trying to get rid of a lot of things.
They're just finishing.
I guess all that to say, you know, legal mumbo jumbo. How has, I guess, distribution been for you this year? Because I think last year it was like you trying to figure out.
Yeah, in general, it's pretty good. It's settled down to about 2 companies for distribution-wise. You got Lunar Distribution that does a lot of Image, DC, and some of those titles. And then you've got Boom Studios, Marvel, IDW, all with Penguin Random House. I mean, Penguin Random House recently bought Boom Studios.
Yeah. And
I think they did that for a number of reasons, to get all the James Tynion product.
Sure.
The Sums Killing the Children. And then Berserker as well from Keanu Reeves, because I know that all that stuff's going to blow up essentially in another multimedia form.
I guess, is it better now with 2 main distributors versus just 1?
Yes, sure, they're getting better, and I don't mind. It's basically like 1 though, because they don't they don't compete.
Sure.
You know, so it's like you just basically deal with the company that you get. I think the main thing I think people struggle with in the comic world is understanding why they are priced as they are. Because some companies let's say Dynamite, great comics, but their foils are $9.99, $10.99 cover price. Then Image Comics can do one and it's $4.99. Transformers just did Void Rivals, brand new 25 matte foil, $4.99. Marvel will put $5.99 on the back of their foils, but then charge us. Only give us a 16% discount off the $5.99. So no comic shop can sell it for $5.99. You essentially have to just mark it up to what a normal price would be, which is anywhere between $8 and $10. And it's making us look like we're trying to get $3 extra from people when the back of the comic says $5.99, but that's just basically a lie to make them look like it's not as expensive. And so I think, you know, I'm fine with DC doing, you know, these cool ones like this is a $4.99 because it's thick, but the regular one's $3.99, and do a card stock that's nicer and generally good condition. I'll pay the extra $1 for it.
Yeah.
That's fine. I think we're just confused. Like, why can Battle Beast do a $3.99 blind bag, and then every DC one's $9.99? And if Dynamite does a blind bag, it's $15 for what, and you're like, what? That's the comic's $5. 2 comics is $7.50. I don't even know. How do you think you're
the
just
math
doing
ain't math, and Ben.
I mean, like, so I feel like I think we're all confused, partly because we're like, man, why is everything a little bit more expensive? But like, what's the truth? Are you just trying to milk more money? Are you trying to make more, which is your prerogative as a comic book company? But like, how we getting more consistent now is kind of, those days are gone because there's so many comic companies. Like All a Bad Idea, they're fantastic. They're $5.99. They're old school newsprint. You know, they're great stories and they're thick general books and they're totally worth the value and that stuff. So I think that kind of part of the comic industry is weird for people because they're looking at something and they're like, well, why is this already a $9 book? And it's like, well, I mean, it just cost of everything, you know?
Depends on the case for that. All right, you know, on the topic of that, I want to bring up another question I got from a Patroni that I think would fit here. This one comes from Ben O'Grady, and he actually emailed this one, and I love this question because it's a little more inside baseball. Ben O'Grady wants to know, what are some things you tried at the shop in 2025 that grew the business? Can you put any numbers to it, such as we added X new line of products and it led to Y increase in revenue? Would love to get under the hood a bit. Also, what are some brand new things you want to try in 2026? Cheers and Happy New Year. Big shout outs to Ben.
Yeah, that's a great
From one
question.
Ben to another Ben.
I love Ben's, dude. Ben's loves some Ben's, dude. I know he likes me too. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Yeah. So, well, this year, the big change for us in general was that I have the Batcave now. So an entire year of having a side unit to this place that I no longer have to jam up the interior of the shop. So it opens up the place for more retail in general. Before, if you'd come in here, I mean, when I was first getting started and when we were doing this for years, there would just be boxes of things lined up because, I mean, we already have next week, the week after this Wednesday's comics have already been delivered because of the new year, you know, and the scheduling. So it would just have to be in here. So that's been amazing for us in terms of like actually being able to do more sales in the shop. That's fantastic. And then, you know, I changed the entire POS system. Oh. And so these probably aren't the changes they were thinking that I was going to talk about, but these things made the biggest difference. The POS system now, we have a portable one we can take anywhere, which is a big deal.
Which I think for real quick, for Free Comic Book Day, you guys were roaming around
trying to create another line. Yeah. You know, I mean, because no one wants to wait in line, and so that kind of stuff definitely helps. Then we have like actual real gift cards that are reloadable. You can mail them out. You know, we used to do gift certificates.
Sure.
But little things like that keep people coming back. They keep it in their wallet. It reminds them of coming in. And then we have that new loyalty program where literally I'll text your phone like, hey, man, you got $5 at the limit, you know? So that has been very, very successful for us in terms of just kind of growing the place and then making it feel like, you know, a little bit more professional and just connecting everything. So I've really enjoyed those two aspects. The number one product thing that I've changed the most is that action figures have really slowed down, not slowed down in popularity, but slowed down in production and or like the amount that you can kind of, like cards, you know, you kind of buy them and then they're gone. But, you know, 8 years ago, probably buy, let's say, 8 units of something. Now we get 3 of them. So we've kind of shrunk that area just because they're more expensive. There's you talked about it, from where they come from and how they get produced, shipping costs and gasoline and everything else. They're kind of expensive. So it's a more niche group that continues to collect. They still do, but they're not quite as much. So we've really taken that part down. And then supplies we have taken way up. So, and I know that seems weird, but just being able to have a BCW display.
I am a fan of these displays you got over here, Ben, especially the, because, you know, you were talking, I think space, you mentioned like having the additional unit here in the extra room. I think usually extra room, more storage is like top of mind for any comic book collector that's serious about it.
It's the best thing ever. And then on top of it, I can just have a bunch of storage. I can have 100 boxes. You know, if you look across the top of the shop now with all the short boxes, and for the whole month of December, we did a huge deal on them. So that was, you know, but it's fun to be able to display it all, but then have 25 of each box and not just have them on the ground. You're getting kicked and roamed or trying to search through and find. You can have it hidden, and that's that kind of stuff. Just naturally, it definitely helps instead of a storage unit 2 miles away. Basically, shouldn't even be.
Ben, I know Ben O'Grady. And he's gonna love that question. It's not
awesome.
It's like not the sexiest, right? It's not like absolute Batman we're talking about.
Yeah. Like, what did you do? But I will tell him one thing that I want to do, because he did ask about what I want to do in 2026. And honestly, it's to be more nationwide. I think that's my goal. We have really started selling a lot more online.
You're taking the limit to the limit.
Yeah. But go to some cons, be involved in some other things. I know Jacksonville. The first Coast Con we did last year was awesome. This year it's going to be at the New Florida Fairgrounds. So nice. It is huge, absolutely gigantic location. And then they're teaming up with this company that brings all the indies. Yep. Yeah. So there's going to be hundreds of creators there. We'll be there. We'll have a special art guest with us. It'll be fun. So we'll continue to grow Jacksonville con scene, and hopefully that becomes something that nationwide people come for every single year. But I'm going to try to go to a few more and get the name out there. And then also just kind of really, we've been building our website, so it's changed recently, and we're going to continue to grow that and make it more user-friendly. So for 2026 is the year of the Ben.
World domination.
Yeah, exactly. Like Pinky in the Brain, baby.
All right, Ben, great answer. If from one Ben to another.
Yeah, I love me some Bens.
Let's actually go back to a sexy topic here. Yeah. Back to that thought you had about Marvel, because we're recording on December 28th.
Yep.
Which is the Monday before the release of Ultimate Endgame.
Yep.
Which I think it's safe to say it's one of Marvel's most anticipated events. Something
Ultimate's
that they've been building up to for literally a year.
Yep.
And I know that I think as someone that comes into shop every week, it's fun to compare the big two, because if we're being real, I know that the success of the big two has a trickle down effect for the rest of the industry. 100%. I think it's also a good kind of temp check in terms of how the rest of the industry is doing. I will admit that it does feel like a lot of the attention, the praise this year has gone to DC, what they've done with the Absolute line, their main line, some of their other the crossover events. I guess how, in your opinion, is this really the year for DC, or how has Marvel fared for you?
It really is the year of DC. It's the first time in my entire life that I can remember DC being more popular than Marvel. And I know
what is Marvel missing?
Marvel's missing just the connectiveness of storytelling. So DC went all in. Right? And then remember when that was our kind of promo before they did all the Absolute stuff. Starting over, the Ultimate stuff for Marvel has been great, but they're just missing great storytelling. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but in reality, DC stories are amazing and they're great. You sent me a couple lists to look over before the show that kind of listed people's top 10s or top 15 comics. Sure. And one of the surprises on there, I don't know if you noticed it, but I was so happy to see it because it's literally one of my favorite comics this year, is Cheetah and Cheshire Rob the Justice League. It is such a random title it's on the third row right over there. It is I think we get the 7th final issue next week. But it has been so good. It's amazing read. It's very high quality. It's thoughtful and unique and has twists and turns and why you read a comic, right? They outsmart a lot of the Justice League members, which is always fun when the villains are great. A story is awesome. But it just shows how good DC is, because if you were going to say, oh yeah, DC's great, because look at Batman's numbers and look at Absolute Batman and look at Absolute Superman and Absolute Wonder Woman. But in reality, it's the Cheetah and Cheshire, it's the JSAs, it's the Justice League Reds, it's the Green Arrows, it's the New Gods that really make DC have such an awesome year. And the only thing that I really was trying to think, I don't want to be negative. I hate being negative anyway. And so there are a bunch of DC Marvel titles that came out. Daredevil, Charles Soule, Cold Day in Hell.
Yeah.
So good. All the stuff that Marvel does crossover wise with Predator and Alien is 100% must read. And if you haven't read any of it, the final part of Predator Kills the Marvel Universe literally comes out this Wednesday as we're recording now. And it is so good. Captain America Alien Guardian has 2 issues out so far as we're recording. So good.
The Spider-Man versus Predator came out this year too.
Yep. I mean, all of them. The Black Panther Predator, the Wolverine Predator, all those stories are worth it, but they all kind of tie into the Predator Kills the Marvel Universe, which is so good. So they've done a great job on that. And then I'll tell you what they did really good job on, which was really, really surprising. And I think people get Marvel buyer remorse from buying some major crossover events that they normally do, the Blood Hunts and et cetera, et cetera. But this year, the Age of Revelation stuff that they did in X-Men comics for 2 months was phenomenal. Like, what if X years in the future, so it's not necessarily the future, an X gene bomb essentially goes off and morphs, kills, or changes everybody. So none of the characters are the same. Everybody's got new power sets. There's this character Revelation who's basically controlling everybody. Wolverine is his Winter Soldier, kind of like killer that he controls mentally. But the entire series, all little 3-part series. Lorcan is Sabretooth, Age of Revelation. The finale comes out this coming Wednesday. But I will say that I was pleasantly surprised by that. And I've been buying it and trying to sell it to people to let them know, like, hey, this is one of those just 3 months of throwaway comics that Marvel will throw at you sometimes. This one is definitely worth reading. I think if they ever make an omnibus, which they will love it, or if you just want to collect individual comics and you're close, we have all of them. But they're definitely all worth reading. It was definitely a good job on Marvel's part. But the problem really Marvel stems with is when Batman comes out or Absolute Superman. I can't wait. The last issue of Absolute Superman was so good. I can't wait to read it. And Amazing Spider-Man comes out and I'm like, nah. You know what I mean? We're almost at 1,000. Yeah. We're at Death Spiral. I mean, does Marvel hate us? Because why is Mary Jane Venom? And like, what happened to Eddie Brock? And I mean, it's just, there's a lot of little things. It was like, what are the choices that we're making here? Remember when they did that whole thing? They could have made Luke Cage Venom. How badass that would have been. He's big, strong, physical. They made it gold, which would have made sense with Luke Cage. Instead, they made it a dying Mary Jane. I'm like, bro, just kill everybody, bro. Death Spiral, #1. Here we go. That's coming soon. Okay. I mean, I just wish Spidey really is the problem. It's their #1 thing in the whole world.
It shouldn't be
and it should be the best. Sure. We were comparing artwork. I'm not trying to poo-poo anybody. Artwork is amazing no matter who does it. It's all high quality. But when you look at the inside of Absolute Superman, or you look at the inside of Transformers, and you look at the inside of Amazing Spider-Man, you're like, man, come on.
I love the optimistic constructive criticism there.
Well, I mean, because we want it to be awesome.
For sure. And I think on that topic, as much as we love to compare the two, this year was very special for the big two because it was the first time that they crossed over, and I think 14, whatever, how many years?
Thank God.
Like 14 years.
So great.
So I am curious they kind of, even I think the rollout, personally, if you were to ask me about the Marvel DC crossover, I did think that it did not do them any favors having such similar names.
Yeah, they blew it, but we didn't know.
Yeah.
Ahead of time, you were like, no, they switched in the thing, but it just confused everybody 2 months later when they came in. They're like, wait a minute,
did I already pick this up or not? Yeah.
Yeah, but they should have changed it.
How did those two crossovers perform for you? And I mean, was it a big deal for the shop and like some of the customers?
Yeah, I mean, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity for me. I love that stuff from the 90s. I was collecting and buying it in Dark Claw and all that. I mean, it's so good.
I still, if I walk, if I'm at Heroes Con, whatever it may be, if I walk by a box that's got all the Amalgam comics, I'm gonna flip through and probably buy them.
I know. I have multiples, and I'm always
the Omnibus came out. Was it this year?
So good. The most popular, best-selling omnibus of all time. Okay, and then the Jim Lee one that had Dark Claw on the cover. Good. I sold my last 2 copies recently last month for $375 a piece on eBay. It is worth $375.
You mentioned people that come in, buy things. It's the joy of like reading, but also like a little bit like, ooh, this might be worth something. Ben, sometimes I come in here and I'll buy a #1 with the intention of selling. If you ask me how many comics I've sold in the last 10 years, 0.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is the best way. You're an addict, bro. And you just told yourself you could sell it at any time.
Stop,
I could quit at any time.
Every time.
No, that's why.
When Blythe is like, why is there all these boxes of comics in this house? I'm like, baby, one day I'm gonna put
Well,
somebody for college.
imagine me. I collect all this stuff, and I tell myself that when I'm buying it. All right, so the funniest thing ever, I was at MegaCon last year, and I was dropping like $3,500 to get all these books that I just had CGC witness to get graded, and you give them 35 comics real quick, it adds up. And I think Vanessa, my girlfriend, said something like, I would think this is crazy if you didn't own a store. And in my head, I'm like, bro, this is all behind us. I was like, I better start selling some of these, dude. I am crazy. What am I doing? I was like a crack addict in a free crack store at MegaCon last year.
But what I really like about you, and I think what separates you from other business owners I know, is that you understand that like you have to spend money to make money, and you're not shy. And I mean, you've never put an emphasis on like I mean, hell, you literally made a joke when I walked in about I hate money.
Why'd you do that? Well, I was like, might as well spend the money when I can. Yeah.
But back to what I was asking. Marvel and DC crossover. Yeah. Overall, how did it perform for you?
So, real well. Awesome. And I'll tell you that Marvel, I think, performed slightly better.
I think it's because they came out first.
Because they came out first and they confused them with the titles, but no one knew that was going to be a consequence of doing the title. They're going to have the same issue next year. DC puts out Superman, Spider-Man first. Mm-hmm. And then Spider-Man, Superman will come out, and I anticipate you might have some of the same issues.
What would be your solution to avoiding that confusion?
They should have just done two totally different titles. It should have been from another story that you had in there, whether it was Crypto, sure. Jeff the Shark. I would have titled it something else with two different, because then if people came in and they saw Batman Deadpool, but they came in and they saw Joker versus, Hulk, essentially, or whatever it was, they would know it was a totally different thing. I think that's probably what you need to do. When they did the 90s stuff, it was issue 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they just rotated back and forth.
Which I don't know if that's any cleaner, but
at least it was 1, 2, 3, and 4.
True.
If they'd made this number 2, then at least people would have been like, okay, number 2.
I see your point.
Do you see what I mean? They would have come in and been like, oh, I got number 1. I didn't get number 2. So there was two ways. You could have made it number 2 literally, or you could have just changed the whole trade dress to be something completely different, but 2 recognizable names on there,
I think it was a really fun idea. I don't see it going away now. I feel like the floodgates have opened, and I don't know if both companies are as protective about the crossover.
No, I think they both like the sales numbers that it brought. The covers were amazing.
Oh, yes.
I'll say that
I have so many variants I don't need.
Marvel did a slightly better job in that they had incentives, and incentive variants are cool because it's not just for money, but it makes it more limited. So there's a more limited cover. DC decided not to do any incentives, but I will say I think I might like DC's overall selection of covers a little tiny bit more than I liked Marvel's overall selection, but I thought the best cover of them all was the Russell Dauterman Deadpool homage Infinity Gauntlet. And that was from the great Deadpool Batman, and that one's probably a $35, $40 comic now, instantaneously. And that one was probably the best of them in my opinion, although like it's 1A, 1B, all that stuff. So
I think mine is the Daniel Warren Johnson, Big Barda.
And I thought DC's stories were a little bit better.
Agreed. It's the same here, too.
You like Big Barda, huh? You ain't going with the thing.
It was just such a,
The thing. I knew you liked Ben. Ben.
You know what? Since we're talking about creators, let me get into my next question. Okay. So we've kind of talked a little bit about the comic books that have made this year great. I want to talk about the creators that have made this year great. Which creator names on a cover, whether it's Daniel Warren Johnson, Russell Dauterman, etc., act as a guaranteed sell for your customers right now? Like, what names do you feel like bring people in the shops, regardless of if they're on Marvel or DC Image, etc.?
Yep, every single time. Well, you just named it. Daniel Warren Johnson is super hot. Everything he does, people really, really like to collect. We've got a couple people still to this day who this is one that's always Frank Cho. Frank Cho always still has a nice little nice group of people that love it. And I don't know if you see his funny covers that he does on his social media, but they're the best and the funniest thing ever. And they go for like $13,000 a piece.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, those blanks that he does with like the jokes, kind of the joking ones with crossovers. So that stuff is amazing. Obviously, when Tyler Kirkham does anything in our shop, he sells right away. Dan Mora has become the surprise hit of them all, though, this year.
Huh.
Obviously, Jorge Jimenez is, like, we'll get into it, is as good and as popular as it gets. But this year specifically, multiple other creators talked about how Dan Mora is kind of the sleeping hidden giant of the comic book world. And now a lot of his random variants he's done for DC, like there's one where it's a Batman Superman World's Finest where they're standing in a hot tub and Superman is heating up the hot tub with his little I-beam, and it's Batman with his cowl on and no shirt, and it's like $135 comic on eBay.
Wow.
Yeah, Dan Mora stuff blows up. It blew up this year, so I think that's kind of one of the ones that now, if he does like a comic, kind of people are like, oh, I got to grab that Dan Mora in case it's worth something.
Sure.
And then a lot of DC stuff. Like the Absolute stuff, so the A covers. So, and it's Dragata in general. So if he's doing something.
Ben, real quick on the topic of Nick Dragata, when I tell you his line at New York Comic Con, every single day was like unbearably
Not many
long.
other people sell A covers like Absolute Batman
I think he was signing a check.
Yeah.
I think I can imagine that at the end of the con, he was probably absolutely exhausted. But in the moment, I think all he saw was dollar signs for every single.
Well,
in
every cover he does the Mr. Freeze first appearance, the Bane first appearance, the Catwoman first appearance, the Joker first appearance, all sell out instantaneously, no matter how many they get.
I think he could probably retire.
I tried to get more.
Right now.
Absolute Batman 15 that just came out, first appearance of Joker. I tried to get more to make it last, and it still only lasted like 3.5 days because then, one of the weird things about comic book stores is in Jacksonville, we get a little spoiled because you walk into the Limit and I got a stack of all this hot new stuff. But a lot of people don't have a comic shop to go to or don't have one close to them, and then they resort to online, and all of a sudden the $3.99 comic is $16, $20 online to buy it. And so I think some people come in here and also see that ability to make a little bit of money on that. So, but that's cool. That's awesome. That's just the residual effect of comics being popular, and I love it. If you want to go through the work of selling your comics, sell your comics.
Sure.
As long as you come here and you're not taking advantage of anybody or trying to buy the whole stack to be a scalper, we're totally cool with that. But yeah, Nick Dragata has crushed all the Absolute Batman covers, and I will tell you right now, not this Wednesday, but the following week, so that makes it the 7th, I believe, of January, Absolute Batman Arkham Special comes out, and this is insider information just for you short box listeners, nobody else. First appearance Absolute Deathstroke. Okay, you won't hear that anywhere else. That's our super secret. So if you watch this, you'll have the inside scoop. Make sure you pick up a copy of that.
It's not even Christmas, but Merry Christmas.
Yeah,
everybody.
we gotta hook them up, right? Just the short box listeners. That's it.
All right, is there an artist or a creator that is on the rise that you feel like, hey, next year you got to pay attention to them? They're this close to like becoming a household name.
Yeah, a couple. EOM has become, it's EOM. Literally,
what have they done?
Initials. Man, they do. They just most recently they did the Absolute Wonder Woman, Batman Wonder Woman cover. It's a crossover variant. It's selling for like $35. It's what that guy was talking about when he came in. Eric Velazquez, the variant cover. He's done some other Poison Ivy, some DC stuff. He did a lot of exclusives at MegaCon last year. So he was down there, but his stuff is very, very popular. The covers, they are in general sexy girl style kind of covers, but like in a very well done, muscular, dark tone, and he's got an incredible style that people can't get enough of. There's a couple people people are sleeping on Aaron Bartling. He, I think, has a bright future. He came to the shop this year. He did our final boss cover, but he does covers, and then people don't really like, oh, who's that? I'm like, it's Aaron Bartling. So I think he has a bright future in comics and kind of blowing up. Lucas Wernock, one of my favorites, kind of where I see a cover and I'm like, oh, that's amazing. We just did our very first ever anniversary exclusive, so to kind of celebrate the end of the year because our anniversary is at the end of the year every year. So we did a Red Sonja 2025 New Year's special. Yeah. Leading into the 2026 year, written by Dan Panosian. But we just, we did that. And Elias Chadzutis, world famous, is so good. He's been doing basically Dynamite and Zenoscope titles. I could see him crossing over into the mainstream and becoming a regular comic book artist on a lot of different stuff. So that's a cool one to look at. But there is, Tua Latoy has blown up this year. It is a who's who of names. Jenny Frizen stuff you can't keep in here. Yeah. I would love to, run into her. I've never met her before. There's so many things. I don't know if I can go to MegaCon more than one day, though. I don't know if I can financially handle it. You know what I mean?
Okay, Ben, on the topic of creators that bring people in the shop, on a related note, I can't help but in my direct eye line is a little Ignition Press, little
Ignition
comic
Press,
shop, whatever, booth, whatever you want to call it, which I believe they debuted this year. Like, they were one of the new publishers on the scene. They've got Stephanie Williams writing comics for them, Tim Seeley. The list goes on. They had that Murder Podcast comic that came out.
Arcadia, Voyeur. I can tell you all about all of them. It's amazing. Two, actually, we'll give Ignition Press their. I didn't mean to cut you off, but they deserve their credit because it's amazing. And then Bad Idea deserves their credit.
You already knew what I was going to ask.
Because they're both, in my opinion, the best publishers of the year. They win the awards for just simply creating the best adult stories to read. If you love to just read and you're in this to get better stories than the TV shows that are your options in every app you own, then this is the one for it. Ordained was amazing by Bad Idea. Survive was amazing by Bad Idea. You've got Voyeur, which is a very adult story, but so good. Roots of Madness, so good. Arcadia, I could easily see being an incredibly popular anime. Tim Seeley's No Place. So good. Yeah, every single Ignition Press, they even do a fun little thing. They print the number of the press comic on the back, so you have copy 1,729 or whatever, and that's just cool to me too. But yeah, and then, like I said, Ordained was my probably my single favorite issue of comic that came out in December. The first issue, Robert Venditti. I didn't even realize how much I love this guy. He's doing Save Now as well, but he used to write some old Green Lantern and some old DC titles as well, involved in the John Wick movies. Man, you want to read some great brand new comics, Ignition Press, and then the covers are great. They're affordable. They're hard card stock. It's great artwork.
And don't they print some of their? Don't they also print on like newspaper print too?
Yeah, well, Bad Idea.
That's right.
Does your old school but you're gonna get a thick 60-page comic for $5.99. It's definitely worth it. But yeah, they go that old school, and that's beautiful. Arcadia is a modern new comic, but they didn't do what Distillery does. If you're a Distillery employee or love Distillery comics, I love your stuff too. I'm Ben K. I sell it for a living. Make it a normal comic size, and then you will crush all of life.
Ben, if I'm not mistaken, I think I actually brought that up to the founders of Distillery, and they were like, "Yeah, we get that a lot."
They get it a lot.
I think they said they were working on it or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Listen, man, I totally get where it was coming from. There was a popular thing for it. It makes their artwork awesome. Make your hardcover that size. Last thing I got to say about Distillery, their stuff is awesome. They just need to make it regular size.
We're gonna play a drinking game every single time you mention that. Okay.
Who wants a magazine? I'm an American.
All right. You mentioned how Ordained has been one of your favorite comic stories of the year.
Yeah.
I'm going to challenge you to mention another story or two because another question I got. This one comes from Marissa Burton, who I believe at one point either lived in Jax, maybe, or shopped here.
100% Marissa Burton.
There we go.
I used to take it to the limit. Unfortunately, I had to move back to Indiana to take care of her
do
family.
you remember
and
everybody?
know about my customers.
Damn right. Look at that. Yeah, that's great. That's
she's
great.
Awesome. Yeah, exactly.
Marissa Burton is a proud patron of the show. She sent in a question. She wants to know question. She wrote, actually, question for the best comic shop owner there is, Ben. What's the most underrated? Oh, underrated. Okay, I like this question better. What's the most underrated story that came out this year? Do you have any recommendations for something I should have read but might have missed?
Yeah. All right. So I can't remember if she got on it, but Exquisite Corpses is amazing. It's a very adult read, but it was so good. Fantastic. I think we're on like issue 8 now of a 12-part series, so that's going to be really good. Skinbreaker. Robert Kirkman and David Finch doing the entire interiors is absolutely phenomenal. I brought it up earlier, but the best horror style comic, in my opinion, this year comes from the Hyde Street universe, and that's Sisterhood. It was fantastic. The 5th issue just came out last week. I told you about Ordained. It is phenomenal. You can already see that they're talking about it being optioned as a movie with Colin Farrell and the Russo brothers about this priest who takes the last rites of a head of the mafia, and then the mafia man doesn't die and wants to kill the priest because he knows all his secrets. It's got that Nobody / John Wick feel. So good. And then I'm glad you brought up Ignition Press, because Arcadia from Ignition Press we're only on issue 1 right now, but that's one of my favorite just first issues of anything that has come out so far. I'm trying to think. Blood and Thunder was really good. Image Comics.
Also another
Everything
Robert Kirkman.
Dead and Dying. I can't keep enough of those in here right now.
I love that first issue a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So that one is very, very good. And then if it's not under the radar, but DC's KO stuff, so good. So fun. I mean, it's probably why I got into comics. I want to see him fight. So I love that. And she loves Green Arrow, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So I already know she's read Green Arrow all year, but that's been phenomenal, bro.
There is no other shop owner like Ben, man. That was really good. Man, that was really impressive. I will say I try and put the titles you mentioned in the show notes of these episodes, and as you're spitballing rapid fire at that, I'm like, I've got my work cut out.
So many. There's we're just like this and this and that and
Big
this.
shout out to Marissa for that question. All right, Ben, I've got another on the topic of, we'll stick to talking about creators. Creators are raising millions on Kickstarter and backer kit, with their individual projects, raising money for self-title or self-owned projects, art books. I mean, I took a look at my Kickstarter account this year to see what books I have backed. I mean, I've backed the art of Daniel Warren Johnson, the art of Mike Del Mundo. I did not back this, unfortunately, but this one made the news, and that was the SWAT Cats Kickstarter, which is only producing a single issue.
I know.
And it managed to raise over $736,000. It is insane how much money, folks like your Daniel Warren Johnsons, Michael Del Mundos, like these projects are raising.
Alex Ross with that Kingdom Come. It wasn't this year. It was probably the year before, but he was raising. I mean, we're going to get that soon. I think isn't that the craziest part about Kickstarter? I love supporting it because you can get the art of Tyler Kirkham. That one's coming soon, right? And I was going to buy it anyway, but I buy it like 3 years ahead of time. I've spent so much money. I don't even know if I get everything that I've bought. Because, I mean, how many times do I go through my Kickstarter to make sure everything's been delivered? It's a weird game, the Kickstarter game.
It is. And I'm happy that more creators are going that route, direct consumer, it takes some of that risk out of it where it's like, hey, I'm only producing what is backed, do people want this? I am happy for these creators. I guess I'm, talking to you and thinking about the shop, I guess, do these campaigns help you by building hype, or do you think like they might, I won't say hurt is such a strong word, but bear with me, or do they hurt the shop in the sense of like they're kind of skimming potential customers or dollars? Like, I guess, does Kickstarter, is that even on your radar at all?
I mean, honestly, most of the stuff that's on Kickstarter, they're not selling in the shop.
Sure.
And then when they
sometimes
years
they do
later,
come. Okay.
They did Pop Kill. Let's use that one for example, right? Pop Kill's been one of the hit comics, mostly for covers, but another really cool, underrated story this year. Jimmy Palmiotti and those guys doing Pop Kill, and I think probably one of their more popular comics of all time now, with how many print runs, with the Will Jack covers and everything else they've done with Pop Kill. But with that stuff in general, I would say, but overall, I think we're probably looking at like, I don't know, what do you think is the best way to describe it, essentially? I mean, I'd say that we're looking at a weird genre of like printing a comic to be popular, but also just printing it multiple times to get covers, to get sales, to get that kind of thing promoted, you know? So I don't know. It's an awkward, weird place to be in now.
And I guess I brought it up because I feel like it's only gotten more popular among creators to go the Kickstarter route. Even like some publishers are using Kickstarter to like fund these books, which I always kind of find interesting because it's like, so we're paying you to produce this? I don't know. Anyways.
It would be weird if Marvel and DC did it and then they started selling their comics first on there before they sold them here.
Got it.
But in general, it's a gateway for people because I think the number one thing that people struggle with, we get a lot of people who are like, hey, do you want to can we sell our comic there? We're local. We're indie. Sure. Can we sell our stuff there? And it's like, man, I would love to. But the reality is it's a bad investment for comic shop owners to put something up front, right? To try to sell something that isn't a known product.
Sure.
And so I think Kickstarter gives people the ability, if they say, hey, you know what, I'm an entrepreneur or I have this idea and I think this is going to be awesome, Kickstarter gives them that opportunity to kind of sidestep having me to take the risk of it.
Because, so it's like a good proof of concept.
Right. In that regard. And then like the pop kill thing, they become more valuable over time once it hits the regular market. So it is good in that regard. But like, they doing these art of books, that stuff kind of stings a little bit to a comic shop. In reality, I don't mind it at all. But, Tyler Kirkham's taken it into his own hands to kind of produce his own art book, whereas before they would have just produced the art book, put it out for distribution, and it would have been on the comic shop owners. Sure. It probably does take a few people who would have bought the book from me and get them to buy it directly from them. But the reality is on books, I have to compete with online businesses that don't have any overhead. So we do 35% off every book over $20 already. So, books, the extra money you make off of hardcover books isn't the same as it used to be because of online and all the things, Kickstarter and then the online stores. So it's a win-lose situation in only tiny regards, but for the most part, I think it's awesome that these people get to create some awesome stuff, and I am a victim of buying it all.
Oh, trust me. The other thing about Kickstarter is it's always way more expensive than you want it to be. You're like,
every time. Well, then you back it, and then you get your big Kickstarter survey, and then you owe another $45 for shipping. You're like, bro, can I cancel it now? I'm having second thoughts. You should have included some just cost ahead of time and refunded me $10. When you give me another bill 5 months later, I'm like, bro, I don't even want to do this anymore. This is a bad mistake. I had a beer.
Yeah. I ordered this at 12:30 at night. I wasn't really in my sensible.
Take the internet away from me.
All right, but on that topic, or on a similar topic, I doing the research for this episode, I came across a phrase I was not familiar with. Tell me if you ever heard this phrase, phygital.
Never heard of it. It's phygital. All right, now I'm about to, though. All right, tell me what's up.
Apparently, it's a mashup of physical and digital.
Okay.
And it's... I was trying to look up, like, what are some of the popular trends this year in terms of comic book sales and just, like, how shops are doing. And this phrase came up in this article I came across. And they was talking about how there's a rise in, obviously there's a lot of different ways you could read comics online. The legit route, there's plenty of apps. There's a DC app, a Marvel app, Global Comics, Neon Itchy, all these different apps and ways to read comic books digitally. But so it's saying that there's this rise in digital comics and ways for people to read it. But some folks they'll read a digital version, but go into the shop, and now they're buying the deluxe hardcover, oversized, the premium edition, instead of buying like the single issues. And I've noticed that a lot of our conversations center around like the sales of the single issues, the floppies, etc. So I bring this up to ask, I guess, are you noticing how are hardcovers and collected editions doing for you? Do you notice, I guess, that collector among like your pool customers who's like, hey, I mainly read my stuff digital, and if I like it, I'm gonna come in and ask you to order the oversized, $100 copy?
Yeah, I mean, I think actually that's an awesome question, because I see I can name 4 people who read things digitally, and then if they like them, they come in and they buy it. Even individual copies, not just the hardcovers and that collectibles, but the actual individual comics. Comic shops or comic book creators have it a little bit different than their predecessors, because before they could trick you with a cover, and they used to do that to us all the time, and they still do it to this day. You don't judge a book by its cover, but in a comic shop, if you don't, you're a dummy, and so they used to trick you with the interiors of a comic by showing you great artwork on the outside, but now pretty much because of social media and the ability, besides just legitimate ones, but also probably bootleg versions of online databases for comics, people can go and find them online and kind of judge it for themselves before they buy it. So it's a lot like you would go into like Best Buy, but reverse. You like look at the TV at Best Buy, and then you go on home and you buy it because it's free shipping,
Sure.
and so it's the opposite. They look at it online, and if something convinces them that they want to own it, then they do come in for that, and that is 100% a market and a real thing. And I think hardcover collectibles are awesome, just like comics are. It's a big thing if you come in here. I tell you all the time. Obviously, we just talked about how I have to compete with online markets that don't have overhead, that give huge discounts on books. And so that stinks in a little bit as a just business owner perspective, because but I have to do it if I want to sell it, because if you come in and you can just get on your phone while you're in my store and shop somewhere else, I have to compete with that, or I'll lose that business. But hardcovers are only printed once, like comics, and I say that all the time. And I say, get this, the Absolute Batman hardcover is very collectible. Absolute Wonder Woman and Absolute Superman, same way, all sold out at the distribution level. So some hardcover books sell out instantaneously. We talked about the best-selling omnibus of all time, the Jim Lee crossover event from the 90s, the Amalgam crossover that had that whole series in it. And not only was it the best-selling distribution-wise, so they produced the most of the omnibus of all time, it still goes for $350 a piece online.
I'm so glad mine is still wrapped in plastic.
Yeah, exactly, literally. But that's the funny thing about it, right? You would be like, oh, yeah, sweet, I could sell this tonight, and you could. And tomorrow, you could put it on eBay and sell for $350, but then you'd pay eBay their fee, and then you'd pay for the shipping or whatever it was for the supplies, and then you got your $270, and then you pay your electricity bill, and then you don't have any money, and you're like, fuck, I want my book back.
You beat me to it. Yeah. One of the best pieces of advice I got from, I think it's got, it's kind of black and white, but I got a piece of advice from a friend a long time ago where I was complaining about all the stuff I had. Granted, I've got some cool shit. And he was like, look, man, I don't recommend you sell your stuff, not your cool stuff, because, you'll get the money, but that money's going to go towards some stupid shit.
As soon as you sell it. I remember last year, sometimes
you need the money, though.
Sometimes the universe works out for you. I needed or sometimes the universe is like, oh, did you just sell that cool comic for $1,200? Well, here's 4 new tires you need now. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. And you're like, I'm glad I have the cash, but I'm literally just taking out of my pocket, and in my head, I'm like, man, would I have needed 4 new tires if I didn't sell that comic? I don't know.
Ben,
but it happens all the time. You're like, bro.
Tires might be the number one hater of all time.
Okay, so you know how you go into different professions, and you probably hear different things at bars. You probably hear different things. People complain about their spouses the most, right, or something. In here, the number one thing people complain about is, I shouldn't have sold that thing. Or my brother stole that thing from me, or my mother got rid of that thing. And that is the number one complaint of anybody. In fact, I tell everybody, I'm like, that just means you're a collector, because everybody's got that story.
For sure. Everyone's got that.
Everybody's like, I don't want to sell it, but I need that $150 to pay the electricity bill.
Man, I think I've told you this 100 times. This has gone to your head already. But you got such a good attitude about things that I feel like, if you were to go on, Twitter or even Reddit, online, and to hear some of the complaints from other comic shop owners, which, I'm not saying that they're not warranted complaints or, people venting online, but you always seem to have a very good attitude about, things like you were mentioning, the competition with other online stores. And I don't know, you always feel like you've got a good solution or a good mindset. I guess, is there anything that you worry about in terms of like longevity of like the comic book industry, you know, like it feels like every year it's like it's always gonna be a topic of discussion. Are comics gonna die? Are we gonna shift away from the things that we're used to? I don't know, blah blah blah. I guess, is there anything, what's your biggest fear when it comes to owning a comic shop that you don't quite have an answer yet?
Yeah, well, all right, so it might not appear like it, but no matter what you do, especially if you own a business, there is no there's nothing you can do, no matter how successful you are, to alleviate some natural worry about what if this doesn't happen, or what if I don't get to this sales, because naturally when you own a business, there's only two ways to go. You either grow and you continue to grow, or you continue to decay and die. There's really only, you only go up or down, So naturally, I have natural worries all the time, just natural cash flow, because you're like, man, I want to do this and I want to make that happen. But I think it goes back to my personal mentality with how I pretty much deal with life in general. And that is I just believe that I think about that I've done it for 46 years, and that every time I've had a serious problem in my life, or anytime there's been a first world problem where I'm like, man, this really worries me, am I going to be able to find a solution to get through this? I find it every single time. And I have an in-core belief that what I'm doing is the right thing for me to do right now. So although, yes, I have natural worries and sometimes I don't sleep well in a specific night, first off, I think it's wholly irresponsible, and I despise it when business owners complain to their customers about their business. I mean, first off, if you didn't want to take risk, then you shouldn't have been involved in taking risk. But then to put it on customers to make them feel at all like they could be doing something better, because that's what you're doing if you're complaining about your business to somebody, or like, oh man, I wish that it was sales were better, or I wish people would buy more of these, or I wish I didn't have to sell that book at 35% off. You're basically like inherently making them feel like maybe they're not doing something. In fact, I actually don't like when people come in here and say, oh, I would never cheat on you. I'm like, cheat on me. Go to another comic shop. I don't give a shit, like, at all. Every shop has their own cool stuff. I mean, I appreciate you coming in, but literally perspective is a hell of a drug. And almost exclusively when I have a problem where I'm like, oh, am I going to keep doing this? Do I want to keep doing this? I think if I didn't have that shop, what would I think? And I'm like, nope, I would be very upset. And so every day is a blessing to do this. I think perspective, like I said, really matters, to be able to tell yourself that, hey, man, this is a first world problem you're having right now. And then regardless, I have the same problems that everybody has in every business all the time. I don't bring it to work, and I'm not bringing it into the shop, and I'm certainly not putting it on anybody's shoulders who's nice enough to drive up here and be a part of the place. So I think it all kind of folds into each other. But yeah, man, I get normal stresses, My girlfriend probably is like, you guys have no idea, because
she's going to send in a question for you next year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's get her in here. Now let's tell him the truth, Vanessa. What's he like at night? He's like, that motherfucker said he sent an email, but he didn't send shit. I mean, it's we take everything very personally because we want to do such a great job, and that's the coolest part. But I'm lucky and fortunate, man.
Great perspective. And I think on that topic, Ben, speaking about being a business owner, the challenges and joys that come with it, the last email I got comes from a mutual friend, also a fellow business owner as well. It's Kyle Willis.
Oh, nice.
Kyle Willis sent in a question.
The best.
Owner of Cowabunga Comics.
Yep.
He's been on the show. He's an artist himself. He's a great guy. Check him out. Kyle writes, Ben, what up, buddy? My crime-fighting, kick-ass fellow store owner. I'm curious, how do you... Oh, I think I might... All right, hold up. I'm curious, how do you manage to stay so high energy without literally making a Bane costume so you can infuse the caffeine into your bloodstream?
Yeah.
Are you just... it goes on, hold up. Are you just that jacked up on Mountain Dew, or do you think it has something to do with the comics you consume? Here's my real question. I know you're probably going to say Final Boss is your favorite comic that came out this year, but what is your favorite indie book if you had to pick one you weren't literally. Oh yeah. What is your favorite indie book? If you had to pick one, you weren't literally drawn into. Oh, that's a good joke.
Drawn
okay. I like that. That's a good
God,
joke. Okay. Okay. Shortbox Nation. My favorite book this year for pure ridiculousness alone would have to be the audacious Captain Savaho. by Marco Marcus and C. Michael Lanning. Only Dr. Flaw could drop this book, and it seemed like any other day. It's a sexy adventure written by a scallywag. Need I say more? Big shout outs to Kyle. So he's asking
all
here.
All right, cool. Here, all right, I am gonna do this, but I need
go ahead.
So hold that for a second, because I'll grab.
We'll be right back.
So that we got a little Mad.
Yeah.
You know, Mad Cave is based out of Miami. I just found that out.
Did not know that.
They are
Florida company.
Yep, exactly. So, all right. So first off, I'm going to start with the independent. Then I'm going to answer your question about why I'm so jacked up all the time. Okay. First answer though, Kyle's the best. Let me tell you something. We talked about this briefly earlier, but the shop was robbed, and then we were able to put the pictures of the robbers out on social media and get multiple news articles written and put on TV in Jacksonville because of pull customers who come here. One of them, Kyle Willis, who owns Cowabunga Comics, shared extensively, put a bounty on the head of the gentleman. Yeah, because he's been robbed recently, and comic shop owners, we're in this because we love comics, and it's easy to tell, and he did so much to share and to bring those men to justice that partly because of what Kyle Willis did, those men walked in here in broad daylight and returned everything and more than we even knew they took.
Shamed him.
Yeah, we
shamed them.
Kyle is that kind of stand-up guy, and there's another comic book shop in town, and we don't need to name them, but I can promise you they weren't doing me any favors. And
I think they might have paid.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not gonna say.
We're not gonna get involved, but
around.
All right, two. All right, so then the prop I got right here. Shout out to Mad Cave because A Bad Idea and Ignition Press have been awesome, but Mad Cave has been writing some really amazing ones. There's one called Our Soot-Stained Heart #1. So on the first issue that's come out, so good. Highly recommend. Probably got 10 left after. It's tough in comic book world. On a Mad Cave Studio comic, you probably order 10 or 15 cover A's when they come out because you can't risk more than that. And then I'll go mad scramble to get 10 more. So I got more. Our Soot-Stained Heart, Red Vector by Mad Cave Studios. Amazing. The 5th issue just came out. I really, really enjoy this one. And then let's see. There was one other title of a brand new #1 that came out, and now it's blanking, of course, right before I try to tell them about it. But yeah, check out Red Vector and check out Our Soot-Stained Heart. Both brand new #1s. Oh yeah, Dan Hauser, Dark Horse Comics. It is here.
I got it. Don't worry.
We got to do
One more prop for the video listeners, viewers.
These guys are awesome. This is fantastic. And I'll tell you why this is so good. This is Dan Hauser, Laszlo, Dan Lapham, Chris Anderson, Lee Lowridge. This is the 2nd issue. We still have copy #1 in here. They've done 2 issues of American Caper, Dark Horse Comics, but it's so great because it literally, the wife is like a right-wing, insane online person. The daughter is a left-wing, insane online person. And the father is just caught in this Wyoming incredible world of drugs, murder, espionage, mystery. It is absolutely fantastic. Dan Hauser, Dark Horse Comics.
With Lee Lewridge.
So good. And then, all right, the reason, yes, I wake up every single morning with a percolator and I take Bustelo coffee and I put that in there and it is espresso grinds and it gets me going every single day. So, yes, I am infused by caffeine.
Puerto Rican and Spanish listener I have right now is hype that you said Cafe Bustelo.
No. Most of the time you see a commercial and the product you get is never as good as what you get on the commercial. Cafe Bustelo. And then is so
Cafe
good.
Bustelo, I'm asking for a sponsorship here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is an easy one. Trust me, no one will sell your coffee better than me or Botter for that matter. But then the other thing is, I love this. This is like my favorite thing ever. Someone actually wants to talk to me about American Caper and Red Vector and Save Now and Ordained. And that's kind of the fun part about the shop. shop in general is that, you work all day. Nobody gives a shit to talk about the one-shot Will of Doom or like what happened in the Age of Revelation. But then Jonathan and I see each other and we're like, oh my God, did you read Absolute Superman? Biggest nerds ever.
That's cool.
But isn't that the best part of the hobby?
It is.
I mean, it used to be like why we traded baseball cards and stuff. Which ones did you get last night? And so life is hard. Life, it can really beat you down. And so that's kind of the point of all of it, on top of just having a hobby to collect.
I wish I could remember the name of the individual that I was talking to in line at the shop last week. I really wish I could, but it made me think of that interaction I had. I was standing in line waiting to get checked out. He asked what I had in my stack. I asked what he had in his stack.
Yeah.
We talked about, his job, why he's here. It was just like a fun little interaction. And I think I've had several of those this year where I just feel like this year, it feels like every time I come in the shop. Now, granted, it might be because I come in on like Wednesday afternoons after work.
Yeah.
It's packed in here. Hell, I mean, Ben, there's been a couple Wednesdays where I've been so happy to see, a number of people in here picking up a new book. But you really have done a great job of cultivating the best parts of the comic book, culture, which is like getting to meet other passionate fans and trading recommendations and talking about familiar books. I think also, too, that the fact that it extends to like, Jonathan or Santana or Chloe. Yeah.
The best people.
Sure.
I mean, that is, I am kind of particular who I want to work with all the time because I want them to have
You've
a passion.
definitely curated a great group of people.
It's funny now that we're fortunate and lucky, and those Wednesdays rock and roll, and Thursdays and Fridays and Saturdays. But Jonathan's so amazing. And he does so much behind the scenes now. Most of the time people are like, is Jonathan even here?
Can I tell you, one day I was in here and Chloe was a man in the register. And I came up to her and I forgot what the hell. I think I had a short box. And I was like, hey, can I get this short box? I was like, can I get that short box right there? She was like, oh, yeah, 1 second. I'll get Jonathan to do it. I was like, Jonathan's here? She's like, Jonathan, can I go out and get some water? On the way.
On the walkie-talkies, bro. Yes. Because we have cell phones, all right? Everybody's got them. The walkie-talkies are the best.
Jonathan came in here like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. He was like,
we had him over in the cave.
Back in the cave, Jonathan.
Everybody asks all the time, does Jonathan even work here anymore? And I'm like, no, he's next door. He's just doing all the real work. He's already checked in all of next week's stuff. He's on top of it. No, but he loves comics. He's it's his passion, too. And, you saw Alexander Hamster.
Yeah,
his story with Ashley, obviously, that the Short Box Nation knows very well. They put out their Kickstarter sequel, and they're selling it in shop. So it's awesome to see that part. Jonathan owes me basically all of his happiness in his life because he met his wife here.
That is true.
All right, yeah. He's living his dream and running a comic store because I consider him to be part owner of this place.
Hell yeah,
just in de facto, because I worked without him before for years, but now I'm like, I hope he never goes anywhere. I'm glad he's not in the military. Let's put it that way, because if Jonathan was leaving, I would be thinking, man, what am I gonna do? Because he's just so good. I don't have to do. You cannot put a price on employees, people around you who just do stuff that needs to get done without you having to tell them every single time, hey, this needs to get done.
Yeah. Ben, have you ever seen there's always like a couple of memes or photos where it's just like during Obama's presidency, where it's like they had a photo of him day one of being president, and then after his it's like full grayed
out.
He's like, man, the years of stress is worn on him. Your photo would actually be the inverse.
I would be happier.
Super stressed.
I would.
After Jonathan, pre-Jonathan.
Yeah.
After Jonathan, happy. The colors return to your beard and hair.
And you know what? We learn, too, every year. Every year we get a little bit better, and every year we get more in tune with what's happening in the comic shop. I just remember when I first started how I just didn't even really know how much bags and boards cost, or the actual business side to selling anything, or even how people like to collect. I mean, the craziest part about my knowledge in comics, I'll tell you that it is the most like humorous to me is when I go to cons and you could give me a lineup of 12, 15 comic book covers and I instantaneously, no names, could tell you exactly who the artist is. Like Alex Ross, Aaron Barling, Tyler Kirkham, Elias Chad Zudas, Daniel Warren Johnson, Lee Bermejo. You just go down like Jenny Frizz, and I can name them all instantaneously. I don't know what any of them look like. So I go to a con. There's three of them sitting there, and I'm like, if it's a woman, I'm like, please just only have one woman at this fucking table. Otherwise, I am with my phone. There's no service.
Are you Jenny Fresden?
Yeah,
I'm looking for Jenny Fresden. Anyone?
It's worse when I walk up to people, talk for 5 minutes because I'm all excited and I'm fucking talking, and they're like, bro, this guy hasn't shut up yet. And then they're like, I think you want me and them, and I'm like, I bet you're
like
awesome.
Ditto. Everything I said, ditto.
Yeah. So you know what, Ben? That is the weirdest experience ever. I'll tell you that.
That is one of my, I think, I want to say it's a hot take, really. I think it's an area of improvement in the comic book world that I think desperately needs to be fixed. I love how in previous years I've asked, like, hey, if you could change, and I will ask it again this year, how I've asked before, hey, if you could change one thing in the comic book world to improve, sales or make your life easier as a shop owner, you've always said, like, hey, Marvel DC should consider, or Image should consider having, like, a recap page, which I have shared with other, like, publishers and folks in the industry. Hopefully that takes off. I think to piggyback off that idea, I don't know why they don't. I think creators need to be more face forward, because to your point, we all know the names, and we can name, like, hey, I recognize his art style. I can say it like a stat, but I don't know what a lot.
I don't
of
even know if it's a man or woman.
That too.
Okay, it really does happen.
And I think it would go a long way, because we're always talking about creators don't get the just dues or the justice they deserve, or even
just
paid.
put a picture every once in a while of them, like Jonathan does on the back of his book. Now you know what he looks like if you're coming in to do it.
I think it's the least that a lot of these publishers could do for their creative talent.
No, we'll talk all the time. We'll have literally just last week where, at the beginning, we had Chuma Hill do an exclusive for Berserker, and it's amazing. And there's like a group of people that love Chuma Hill. That's an up-and-coming artist too. But I thought it was a woman at the beginning, and it is a man. EOM. We're like, there was another one last week, Shabido. I don't know how to say it. I don't know if it's a man or woman. Bro, you know what I mean?
That's going to be a drop for me.
Oh, yeah. Well,
you said it like 8 different ways. That's a great way to cover all the ground.
I just go for it. Like, I'm so wrong all the time. No, but no. So they I don't even know man or woman a lot of times. And then I will say that almost everybody has gotten better at making sure that some of these artists get recognition. So whether it's DC's doing an amazing job. They literally put the cover artist on the barcode. Marvel hates me. They won't put the name of the artist anywhere on unless I can I look for the signatures and try to read people's signatures. So I know what their signature works. Lucas Wernock's signature looks like. Oh, that's the LW. Or whether it's who's Ken Lashley, LED Killer. I'm like, I know that signature. I know the Mark Brooks signature. But they don't put anywhere on the inside. But when you're trying to figure out covers A through E that are on the table out here, and you got an email from someone and it says, hey, I want the this person cover, cappuccino cover, and then I'm looking, and on the inside page it says he has a variant, but it doesn't tell you what variant it is. And I have to go look on the computer or have an employee I pay hourly to look it up on their phone. Bro, just put their name on the back or something at least. Almost everybody else, DC and all the independents do a really good job of that. Marvel still. And I think, and I don't know, because they can run their company however they want, but I think it plays back into Marvel really still wants to be known as Marvel more than they want to be known as independent creators first.
Kinda
do you know what I mean?
It's like a way of suppress, like a
little bit. They sell all those statues you buy of that famous artist, right? You know those little statues you buy?
I know what you're talking about,
Don't say his name on it.
And we're talking about Scotty Young.
Yeah. Animated?
Oh, it doesn't say Scotty Young at all in the box?
At all.
Wow, actually, you're right. Yeah.
It doesn't at all. It doesn't say Scotty Young at all, and that's clearly what they are.
Okay.
But I'm not upset with Marvel because they still are a company who employs people, so they can say, hey, this is our product and we employ you and you make it for us. That's why we paid you to do it. So I get that aspect. So I'm not totally mad about it, but we all know what you're doing. Yeah. We all know it's Scotty Young's statue.
It's like the social currency could go a long way. It's like, hey, that's a business practice that you are
I'm
more
sure the
entitled
artists themselves talk about it, is my guess.
Okay.
I have no insider information, but I think that's probably why some of them come up with recognizable signatures.
That's a good point.
You know, I was surprised that Mark Brooks, who's one of my favorite artists ever, has that sweet signature, but that is not something that he signs his books just Mark Brooks. And when you go to a con, you're like, oh, I'm going to get that sweet kind of Japanese style signature. And he said, no, that's my digital signature only.
Interesting.
And then David Nakayama, who I love, the coolest, nicest guy of all time. One of the coolest guys ever, and I would never tell him what to do ever, but it surprises me that he doesn't sign things DNA. That he writes his name David Nakayama, which is still great. That's his name and everything, but that's DNA is what, you know what I mean?
Indicator.
When I try to tag him on social media, I do DNA and it never pops up. I'm like, oh yeah, David Nakayama. Yeah, I mean, that's who you are. That'd be like me telling you not to take it to the limit.
Ben, I love that we went down a deep rabbit hole about artist signatures. That was great.
Yeah.
and I think with that being said, I have one more question for you. Just thinking about topical things that are going on this month, especially even this week. You brought up earlier, how Invincible earlier in the year with the Battle Beast blind bags, etc. In the show, we're bringing in a lot of folks, your normies bringing in, hey, I watched the show, I want to check out the comic book. I heard there's a blind bag. This week, or I think last week, they were releasing the Avengers Doomsday teaser trailers. There was a Captain America one, a Thor one, and I think we finally got like the main one. Has that had any, and we're on the topic of Marvel too, I guess, has the news and the hype for Avengers Doomsday done anything in terms of bringing folks in to pick up more Marvel books? I guess you would like to think that these movies and shows help kind of bring people
I'll tell
into
you
shops.
what, Supergirl trailer dropping has brought in a lot of people getting Supergirl, the Tom King story. So I bought a ton of hardcovers and a ton of trade paperbacks, and DC has done a great job of having those available because they were out of stock for a while with the drop of the trailer, and we've gotten a ton of that, and I think that speaks to how James Gunn and DC was very smart to make their connected universes where like you're reading a story in Detective, well, that Batman, that's the Batman that's happening in the Matt Fraction, and you're not guessing when it's happening, so that's really cool.
You're right. They do make it very idiot-proof. Like, hey, if you like this movie, you will go read this.
There's a downside, though, to that, and it's if you don't perform well in the other media, then it can have an opposite effect, and one of those places is Star Wars. Star Wars is a great buy right now, not only just for all the awesome stories. The Kylo Ren story is badass. It's after all of this nonsense. It would have made a much better movie, but the relatively division of the more recent Star Wars movies has had an adverse effect on people wanting to buy Star Wars comics, even though they've never been better. It's Luke Skywalker with a green lightsaber. It's like everything you've ever
left such a bad
taste in people's mouth. And so now what I'm noticing, and this is just word of mouth, but this is the real legitimate word of mouth, when most people bring up the new Doomsday stuff, they have fatigue because they believe that Marvel thinks they're so dumb that if they just bring Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. and these guys back, that we'll all just flood to the theater again. And in reality, they made great movies. The Winter Soldier was badass. The Avengers Infinity Game, even though they were super complicated with all the characters, they just did such a great job with every movie leading up to it, storytelling wise, that it was a crescendo effect and everybody had to go. And then you had natural word of mouth after the first Avengers Infinity, like, oh my God, they've never left really where they've lost since Empire Strikes Back.
It does feel like a break in case, like they broke the glass because it's an emergency.
Right.
Hey, nostalgia is
right.
hidden behind
and
this
so
glass.
and so right now, Which isn't a bad thing. It actually drives down the hype for the movie, which you would say, oh, that's a bad thing. But if they make an awesome movie, then the minority will go and word of mouth will spread, and all the people that were on the fence talking shit about it will go and see it immediately. So Marvel has a great opportunity to bring that crowd back in, but no one does a better job of tying the movies, the animated stuff, and the regular comics and drawing in people than DC does right now, because they've connected it all and made it similar stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, I want to read the Grant Morrison story about Superman because there's the movie. I want to read Supergirl tomorrow because I want to see this new style Supergirl. We're not afraid to go. You know, Al Garza, one of my favorite modern artists now. He's awesome guy. Shout out to him. He was talking about how back in the 90s they hired him to do Supergirl, but then there were a couple of his artwork came up where he had drawn Supergirl like smoking a cigarette with a beer in her hand, kind of like sitting in an expose way, weird way, in an alleyway, and they did not want that to be connected to their character now. And he's like, it's so weird 25 years later seeing like that's what they're going with, drunk Supergirl. You know, he's like, bro, they wouldn't even give me a job because of it.
Ahead of your time,
yeah, you were
brother.
literally 30 years ahead of his time. And I'm
great.
like, yeah, that's true. Really just his social norms, and that's what they're doing. So Marvel has ruined all of their goodwill. They cried wolf too much by trying to get people, like, they just stopped making great movies. They made good movies, but not great movies, and that has had an effect. And so now on the new Doomsday, I think people are a little weary, a little beat down, like, oh yeah, Robert Downey Jr., you guys think I'm dumb, I'm just going to go. But if they make a great movie, I'm dumb and I'll go.
Yeah, I'll be among the dumbest.
Easy. Yeah, it's simple. So it really is just going to depend on them. If they make a super, super complicated, out of control movie that like clearly feels like it was just a money grab to make another one, then it'll, you know.
I think people will see right through it. And I guess, Ben, the last question I truly have for you is, when you think about this year, and you think about the most popular comics for Gotham City, you know, whether it be like most sold or just, you know, critically acclaimed among the customers here, what three, if you want to say five, if you want to go for five, go for five. What 3-5 comics do you feel perfectly encapsulate or represent this year for Gotham City Limit?
Oh, yeah, they make up what we are. Well, one of them is Exquisite Corpses. I have taken a big risk on it, not just because I think it's awesome and it's a James Tynion product, and we obviously did 2 Andrew Robinson exclusives on the first 2 issues of it. So I have my own long box of Exquisite Corpses. There aren't many titles where I actually have like a long box of it, but I always recommend it. It's a great adult story, and it's been fantastic. And then on top of it, they have a game connected to it, so you can get the polybag version that has like the Magic the Gathering style cards, but then there's a foil 1 in 10, so it makes it exciting. Jonathan and I are junkies, and you know, we're getting 100 of these things, and like, I have the Magic Touch, by the way. Jonathan does not. I find them so quick. Jonathan never finds them. But anyway, back to my original. Exquisite Corpse, amazing. Absolutely love that title. Really, really love it. Let's see. What else? Geiger, Rook, and Hyde Street. Geiger, Rook, Redcoat, Hyde Street make up the new. I also multiple long boxes of that. And that stuff is so popular and ever gaining popularity. We have our exclusive hardcover of the first 6 issues, then the second hardcover of Geiger Volume 2, the next 6 that came out. But that's what started it all. And then the Hyde Street's so good. The best horror, like consistent horror comic out there. Hyde Street, amazing. Sisterhood, the little side story. So that, and then another one that really encapsulates what we do, you know, it's basically the big long boxes in here that have one single title in them. And the other ones are the Absolute stuff. And obviously Absolute are all very popular, whether it's Martian Manhunter or Wonder Woman or Superman. I think Martian Manhunter is the biggest surprise from a like character that you wouldn't expect to be super popular, but because of the way Dennis Camp has found a way to really write the character character and make it super unique, and then have the colors of the art.
Yeah,
tie
it doesn't hurt to have Javier Rodriguez. Absolutely.
Right. Well, the artwork makes
Precious.
it like the story's awesome, but
Sure.
the artwork really is phenomenal for
It
a
matches
comic
it
book,
perfectly.
and it makes it such a cool read to where like you really study the art. But Absolute Superman's still my favorite of them all. The last issue that just came out, Absolute 14, was Ra's al Ghul with a kryptonite sword versus Superman, and then it leads into in 2 weeks he gets his regular kind of normal suit, and it was just amazing. And Jason Aaron has absolutely crushed it. And then we were looking at Rafael Sandoval's art, right?
Yeah.
Right before this show, and he is so underrated, so good. And so I would say that, and then the Dynamite stuff. The only other thing that really encapsulates what this year was, besides Dynamite and all the old 80s titles of like Thundercats
Sure.
and Space Ghost, which is crazy to think about, that those titles outsell so many big like name titles. Like I sell more Space Ghost than I sell Flash.
Wow.
Or Green Arrow, or Mr. Terrific, or Thor, or Captain America, or I mean, like it's crazy.
Space Ghost is doing numbers like that.
Space Ghost and Thundercats, and like I mean, if you're talking, I got 28 people on Green Lantern, and I got 38 people on Space Ghost, and that
Impressive.
is, some old stuff like that. And then Mark Spears has really captured the blind bag. If you would ask me who did it second best, it's been Mark Spears, because he realized that on top of making something cool and collectible like TMNT, where you can get the high-end incentive, he made 74 covers. So when you're opening those blind bags, not only can you get 1 in 600s, 1 in 1400s, super 14,000s, very limited ones, but you can also, if you're a collector, you don't mind opening 15 of them because you got 15 different covers, and there's a whole set of them, and that makes it cool too. So those, I think, are the comics that kind of encapsulate what happened in here, besides the fact that we did all the store exclusives this year that we crushed. Exquisite Corpses, Berserker, Red Sonja, Ordained. I mean, we can just keep going down the line. I was super fortunate with Final Boss and Tyler Kirkman to be drawn in that comic, so that was a dream come true.
Collector's item.
And
right
that's the beauty of Kickstarter. Tyler ran Final Boss #1 through a crowdfunded source in 2020, and I took a risk at just making a cover and paying to be drawn in it for fun. I never thought it would be an Image comic, and then because we did that, when Image Comics bought it, I'm naturally drawn in it, and now I'm in every comic store.
And
everywhere.
you were on the news for it, which I thought was really cool.
Jax, man.
There we go.
Yeah.
Actually, Ben, I lied to you. I have one last question,
Okay,
because I would feel remiss if we didn't look to the future of comics and what 2026 has in store for fans like us. What are you most excited for when it comes to next year? What are you looking forward to most in terms of comic books in 2026?
I think what I'm most looking forward to is the continuation and in-depth storytelling that's coming from the Absolute universe, because that stuff's awesome. And just like I said, same thing with the Energon universe. I'm looking forward to now how it's funny how when you first read it and you get the information about characters from some of these stories, about how you think you understand it, and then 24 issues, 30 issues, 35 issues in, there's these layers of complexness and storytelling that you never originally saw from the beginning. So I love the mystery part of that. I think that there is going to be a push for I love mystery comics. I love do it yourself, solve it yourself, figure it out kind of ideas. What DCKO is doing, what Exquisite Corpse is doing with the different rankings, where they essentially have like a NC style, like NC March Madness style rankings, where you get to pick who's going to win, be involved. So I can see that becoming a thing. Zach Kaplan's Mastermind is such a great comic for that. I love reading a comic and not knowing what's about to happen. So these creator-owned comics. And then there's so much. What I'm really looking forward to is what I don't even know. I really don't know where Invincible is going to go. But I bet it's going to come back. One thing that I'm looking forward to 100% is, for the first time ever, ever comic shops get to sell a PlayStation 5 game. So Invincible versus 3. Oh yeah, we sell it here for $60 with a copy of Invincible reprint, or you can buy the collector bundle. So the same thing that you can get at GameStop. Sorry, GameStop, you've been encroaching on me all this time. You know what I mean? Yeah, we get to sell it from here. Pre-orders are live. It comes out in April. The day the video game comes out at GameStop, it's the same day it comes out here.
Beautiful.
So and that's all Robert Kirkman, because finally somebody understands that the popularity of all this stuff starts in the comic book stores, and he decided that comic shops should be able to sell the video game too, because that's where Invincible really began.
And I mean, just think about the crossover appeal between comic fans. I mean, me raising my hand.
And that has brought so many people in. Battle Beast, not only was the blind bag, but a lot of people came in for it, and we still have people that come in for it, young people.
Ryan Otley is hasn't lost a step.
Has created so much, and it's only going to get better. And then I'm interested to see what the boys do. I think the iron is hot for them. They did a little Dear Becky thing, but I still think there's opportunity for that kind of genre. And then I'm curious as to where we're going to go in comics. Power Rangers is ending. Boom Studios is ending Power Rangers, so that's no longer. But I've always said, don't do Power Rangers, do Voltron. If you did Voltron, we would crush, bro. I mean, we would do, you know what I mean? So, right there, I'm, hoping that maybe we'll make a transition, because Power Rangers, to me, as a 46-year-old, is the poor man's Voltron.
Sure.
That's always how it's been. When I saw it on TV, I was like, fuck, Voltron was better, and that's why I didn't like it when I was 13. Yeah.
Ben,
so
I'd like to think that there's some industry insiders that look forward to this episode strictly for all of the free game you give.
Right. On what they should be making,
yes,
bro.
Absolutely.
We would crush Voltron, because right now Tim Seeley's writing a He-Man, and people don't understand He-Man in Masters of the Universe. Very, very popular, and it really comes from the villains in those universes. And so if you have great villains, you have great heroes and great storytelling. So 2026 is going to bring stuff that I don't even know is possible, and I'm super excited about it. And I know that TV will continue to make terrible TV like Love Island to distract my girlfriend, so I can read every night.
God bless Love Island strictly for that reason alone.
Yeah.
And I think with that being said, Ben, this has been a fantastic way to wrap up the year. I'm every time I get a chance to talk to you, I get so hyped to go home and read this short box of comics that I've been sitting on.
Hopefully this will be the time it gets you started. I mean, literally, I got one piece of advice for you, and anybody who buys comics and feels like, oh, I'm so behind, just pick a spot and start reading, and then continuously, it's like working out. You don't want to do it, but get up and work out. And then I promise you 2 days later, get up and work out. And then all of a sudden, you're just working out all the time. Same thing with reading. Pick a spot, start reading. Maybe you'll go back and read it, but do what I do. I flew on an airplane this past time and took a giant omnibus with me, sat right there, and I said, everybody just reading a comic, just powering through an old story that I never caught up on. So
I love it.
Yeah, so read now, read often. It's good for you. And thank you for coming. This is awesome. It's like my favorite time. I never rarely get to just talk for 2 hours about my favorite
I always feel
thing.
bad, because I'm like, Ben, we can record after you close the shop. And I was like, he's already had a full day of work. And then by the middle of it, I'm like, he's having a ball.
It's my favorite thing ever. It's why I do it. People always ask, and that's why I come up here. I could hire people and just have them here instead. And I do it to give me something to do. I really do love it. Yeah. And thank you to everybody who comes to this place and everybody who supports The Limit. We couldn't do it without you. Remember, if you're ripe, you're rotten, so always be a tough little green banana. And with that, I'm out.
I love it. Shortbox Nation, that is what I got for you. Ben has answered every question I've had, questions the Patronis have had. If you've got a question for him that I didn't even think about, hit me up at theshortboxjacks@gmail.com. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And most importantly, I hope you have a great new year. This episode will drop on the 31st. So look, enjoy yourself, take care of yourself, do what Ben said, read your comics, read often, and I love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the Short Box, and I'm sure 2026 will be another great year for the podcast. Stay tuned for more of what we do here. Peace, y'all.